the latest episode of the What the Book Club podcast, the show where normally four, currently three idiots sit around and talk about weird books. Today,
Hey, four.
four. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, normally five then, because we normally have a rat with us. But anyway,
Yeah, they're in lockdown at the moment.
we had some
Oh,
drama with our
no.
rats earlier. Well, yeah. So today we are looking at, as promised, we're looking at the weird world of microfiction. So this is a book called A Small Fiction by James Miller and Jefferson Miller. And this is a compilation of stories written and totaling 140 characters or less. So these are probably the shortest stories we've ever read, which was kind of the reason we chose them initially, just because we could get through them all in a good old pace. And yeah, there's some interesting ones on here.
I don't know where Helen is.
Sorry,
Has she messaged at all? Where's Helen gone? We don't. Other Helen.
I have no idea.
Oh, family emergency. Oh crap.
What's that?
Helen Ganny has hit a family emergency.
Oh my.
Oh dear. Yeah, family emergency. Yeah, Helen Ganny will not be joining us again. Not this tonight.
Have you killed Helen Ganny, Liz?
This is all just an elaborate setup, so you have an alibi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Helen has just messaged to say she's had a severe family emergency and she's got to trot off.
That sucks.
Um,
It can't have been us. We were live on Twitch. Perfect alibi.
no. Yeah.
Right, I will edit the picture so that it doesn't show her name. 'Cause that's it. One strike and you're out.
She's
I have thought a lot about the alibi thing over lockdown, though, because you know when you watch murder mystery things and they're always like, oh, well, they can't account for where they were. No one can back them up. No one can ever back up what I'm doing because I am always alone in my house.
Yeah, it doesn't account for introverts, really, does it?
No, and they always seem shocked that people don't have an alibi. But I would not
Well,
be able
you
to.
still get home alone, drinking wine. Can anyone vouch for that? No.
My cat.
Yeah.
He wouldn't say that to me.
I'm pretty sure I've watched something where it's like a futuristic thing where a pet cat was the only one left alive that could vouch who the murderer was because they could like plug into its mind or something. I'm sure I've seen that on something.
Oh, well, maybe he would help me out then.
Is that your
I
cat
reckon
purring
I'll
then?
just-
That's a very loud purr.
Yeah, he does purr loudly.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, Mum's
I
listening.
kind of reckon our rats wouldn't back us up at the moment because I think they're a bit mad at us.
One in particular.
Yeah.
So, shall we tell the rat story to our avid viewers?
We'll let you tell the rat story to our viewers.
Well, I came down this morning and there were bits of ruined grapes discarded all over the dining room table, which is a surefire sign that the rats have somehow escaped. Now, I've no idea how, because the cage was on a table that's completely
About
freestanding.
4 foot high.
4 foot high table that's completely freestanding with nothing but a sudden drop to the floor all around it. Somehow, Louis flew off of the Alcatraz Island cage and then flew up onto the dining room table to eat some grapes and then vanished. I spent a while searching for him in the morning, and then scouring around the house, I found a bunch of rat droppings in the spare bed up on the first floor. And so it's clearly
We will wash it before you next sleep in it, Mummy Ann, don't worry.
Yes. Well, she just
For
comments.
breeze, at least.
She just comments, ugh, thanks, Liz. Yeah, so apparently our rat had a lovely little adventure during the night, but then this afternoon we heard him in the fireplace, which connects all the way up the house, and so we reckon he's climbed up the fireplace into the spare room and then climbed back down. We tried to coax him out with rat treats and things, but he just took the rat treats and then hid back in the fireplace. Eventually, at Liz's mum's suggestion, we put the cage with his brothers in it down next to the fireplace. and he came out clearly wanting to be. Yeah, straight out. Clearly, just wanted to be back with his buddies. Clearly, having realized his mistake in escaping into the real world and wanting to go back into the cage, and Liz was able to acquire him, and we've currently got him in a sort of small little travel cage that there's no way he's getting out of, and
he's relegated to the tiny cage.
Yeah, busted.
Oh, the problem is though that he keeps trying to chew his way out to get with his brothers, and his brothers keep like trying to find a way to get to him, and now I feel like a terrible human being.
I know, it's heart melting, isn't it?
But we found a man with like a what he refers to as a proper jail, prison cage for the rats.
Yeah.
That I'm going to pick up tomorrow, because apparently he had the same problem with a hamster years back, and that's how this cage was acquired. So I'm going to Hebden Bridge to pick up a cage that they can't escape from tomorrow.
Nice trip out though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to take it where you can get it.
Any excuse in lockdown, innit?
Yeah.
Should we talk about the book then? I guess
yes.
that's what our fans are here for. So
As here for the rats as they are for the books, personally,
I think so.
I think it's a fine quality caption too.
Yeah.
True.
It's cute.
So given that none of our viewers were present whilst I did my intro, I'm going to recap. So we're doing a book called A Small Fiction, which is a compilation of micro stories, which are stories that are 140 characters or less. Now, when I bought the book, I thought it said 140 words or less, so I was very confused by these weird kind of single-page, almost poems that they are, or like one-liner jokes, or very, very short bits of fiction. But yeah, 140 characters or less.
Our friend Pete has commented, 140 characters feels like a hell of a lot for a story.
Yeah. See what he did. Well, it's about yeah. Let's see what he did. All right. So what did we make of this then? Going into this at the last minute.
This is definitely the favourite thing that I've read.
Really?
Yeah.
Definitely my favourite of our book club books.
I mean, yeah, not ever. But
for a while, it's poignant about it. I don't know.
I have to say I did quite enjoy Bridgerton, so or whatever the actual book's called.
Yeah, there were a couple that were quite poignant, or quite sort of. There was a couple that were really quite sad, or had a sort of existential. Some were just quite sort of black humour, but there was a couple of quite sort of existential dread type stories. Should we read a couple of examples of some of our faves just to kick things off?
Well, speaking of existential, I just had one up that was that I liked kind of the dark humour side of things. So this is in speech. I don't really know how to signify that without doing the, which feels a bit contrived, but I think I'm having an existential crisis, she said. Are you? He said. That seems pointless.
Oh man, something stuck. I've got one of the dark ones. Is the plague spread across the world, killing everything it touched, but it turned inward, self-destructed. The humans at last died out.
Yeah, I liked that one.
That's a good one. Sort of on the subject of wisdom and existential things. This one I quite liked. It's, "Will you share your wisdom, owl?" said the lark. "Is wisdom shared or earned?" said owl. "So wise." Owl couldn't believe that kept working.
My two favourites of the ones that I've read so far were, "How curious," Alice said. "This bottle says 'drink me' on it." And so she did, because apparently her parents had done a very poor job.
Yeah.
And the other one,
go on.
The other one, which I think is everyone's favourite, especially Helen Ganny's and mine, said, "He pulled the sheet over his head, thinking it would make him a ghost. When he tripped on the hem at the top of the stairs, it did."
So good.
So dark.
Another highlight of the dark humour.
Yeah.
"Are we alone in the universe?" she asked. "Yes," said the oracle. "So there's no other life out there?" "There is. They're just alone too."
Yeah, man.
So lockdown vibes.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, I quite like this one. The war of passive aggression wears on, America was bombed again. A million tiny notes that read, "Some people should learn to communicate."
That's good, isn't it? Yeah, that reminds me of certain individuals. Oh gosh, I'm being passive aggressive there. But
You should have pretended that was part of the joke rather than an accident.
That's the sort of thing some people we know put on Facebook. Like, some people, they know who they are, need to learn, blah, blah, blah.
So we can edit it together for the YouTube version that was all a deliberate part of the joke. Mum just comments saying these are good. I have another one on the dark humour topic here. So, but Jesus, the man said, when I look back, I only see one set of tracks. Those are train tracks, Jesus said. Stop walking on those.
Oh, I like this one. This is quite a nice one. I like this one. When the king built his pillow castle, his enemies laughed and sent their armies to conquer it. None chose to return. Pajama Kingdom grew.
It's nice, isn't it? They have a certain thing that's a bit like kind of proverbs or like wise sayings to them, don't they? There's almost this kind of zenness to them in their simplicity.
Can we add this to the next book of the Bible? You know, we've got Proverbs and this. I mean, there's quite a lot of wisdom in them, so...
Well, yeah. It does kind of make you think about what... I mean, if I could get existential for a moment, what is a story, you know? Because you've got 140 letters to do these things. So you can't mess around very much. You can't have too much extraneous stuff. You can't really have any characters or setup or anything. It's just action and surprising reaction. Normally, that's kind of the formula, isn't it? It's thing happens, thing reacts surprisingly.
I think if I had finished reading this a bit earlier, I would have loved to have tried writing one, because you do have to be so clever to get like your point across succinctly, make every single letter count towards it, and it does make me want to start writing, because it's like, oh, these are such good teasers. I want more from it.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Sort of things as well you'd find in nice handwriting on Facebook.
Yeah.
Like the image.
Yeah,
I've got another great
some of
one
them are a
here.
bit like that, aren't they?
Got another great one here. Magic mirror, show me the source of my failures, he said. He saw himself. This is just a normal mirror, he realised. Another failure.
It's interesting you mentioned Facebook, though, about how these would look good on like pictures on Facebook. Just makes me realise, isn't 140 characters, isn't that the limit for a tweet on Twitter?
Yeah.
So these...
Oh, maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's the thing.
So these could have originally been tweets, and that's where this whole thing started, I guess.
Yeah, I did read the beginning, and I think it said that it was a collaboration.
Okay.
But this is one of the most relatable things I've ever read, and I think if I was to have a series of taglines that was 140 characters, I would go for this right now, which was, her life story was being written in a different genre than she'd thought. She'd expected drama, maybe romance. Dystopian was a surprise.
I think everyone in like the last year relates to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good, but so clever. I mean, I think quite a lot of these would be brilliant novel openers, but they're quite a poignant and impressive art form in and of themselves.
Yeah, they'd definitely be catchy sort of attention-grabbing starts, wouldn't they? Just looking through some of the other ones here. This one's quite good. This isn't really linked to any of those we were just talking about, but just says, Control to Probe 2. What do you see? New line. It's beautiful. You should have sent a poet. Oh, that was Probe 1. Not great at landing, poets.
So good.
It's all about the monsters under the bed. I'm trying to find the monsters under the bed one.
Yeah. That's a great one.
That really tickled me.
We're just reading the entire book.
I know, but it's so good. Oh, this one was my other favourite. Mom, I think there's a monster in my closet, said Jeremy. Go to sleep, Jeremy, she said. Yeah, shut up, Jeremy, said the closet.
Yeah. That's genius.
I just love it. It's got a lot of humour in it, that's the thing as well.
Yeah.
Like, every one of them is quite funny.
There's a couple that are quite nice and upbeat and positive as well. But
Sorry, I talked over you.
it's okay.
He's married.
Can't talk now. I'm driving, I texted. Kay, drive safe, he replied. I think you mean drive safely, I typed as I veered off the bridge.
Oh, that one's very... So I've got another one on the text theme here. So this one says, I am saturated always by a deep and lingering melancholy, he wrote, and I fear that one day I might drown in it. Kay, she texted back.
That strikes me as an unfulfilling relationship.
That feels lived in, doesn't it? Like, that's
That's
real.
come for some serious pain.
Absolutely, yeah. It does make you want to try and write these, and I guess what you said before about these sort of making you want to write is a good thing, doesn't it? Because it sort of very much lowers the threshold for being able to be a writer if you can sit down and write 140 characters and then still come up with something. It's
almost harder than writing more. It's much harder than writing.
To get something good.
I know this is a little bit slightly longer issue, but I remember writing my dissertation is I managed you had like a 10% either way, and I managed like 1,200 words, and then I cut it down for a 10,000 word essay, and then I discovered that my dissertation was 8,000 words and had to hack a load of several thousand words off of it. And I just remember, like, it's so hard to edit down. Like, I could write, like, 12,000 words, no problem is. But then trying to condense what you want to say, excuse me, it's quite hard.
Well, in the words of the one person currently listening, if there's one thing that Liz Eubank can do, it's talk. That's a quote from my mum there. To Liz, I think it was. So like, this wasn't like I'm not out.
Complimentary. It was about me doing church talk.
Oh yeah. In context, it was slightly less mean. But
it does get pulled out a lot, though, doesn't it?
It very much does.
It's still nicer than my mum, who I was home. This was like a good few years ago now, but it gets recycled quite a lot. I was home in the uni holidays, and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing today?" Well, she'd asked me to see something, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm going to go see some friends." And she just said, completely deadpan, "But you don't have any friends." It's like,
wow.
But she meant you don't have any friends that live near you that are available. But she just didn't put any of those caveats in. That's in there. So now we have an ongoing joke with my family about how I don't have friends.
My mum recently, I sent a really nice picture of me holding my godson, and my mum's response was, "You look knackered."
That's such a mum response.
Mums, eh? Going back to what you mentioned, Liz, about how when you write essays and things about having to sort of trim it down loads. I was the complete opposite. So I struggled to get to the minimum word count. I felt like I always said everything I wanted to, but in a single sentence. And so the struggle was to then pad it out to reach the acceptable lower limit of the words. So I reckon this kind of fiction here, that in this very limited format, might be something that's something that I could get into.
I think for next week we should all.
Going, did I really say that? And I'm like, we love you, Mummy.
What were we saying, Helen?
Well, I'd like to say that I also have affection for you, Mummy Ann. That's one of our 2 listeners. But I was going to say, I think we should all try and write one for next podcast. And we should start our podcast with our best 140 character story.
That could be a good thing, or even end with it like as a final thought for each week.
Ooh, 140 character summary of our next book. No, that would.
We should do it in subject form if we're going to do summaries.
That's a rhyme, yeah. Get our creative juices flowing.
Ooh, yeah. No, that sounds good. Definitely, I reckon this is, in terms of threshold for us actually doing one of the ideas we come up with, 140 characters we can probably manage.
Is that more likely than the erotic fiction about the protester falling in love with, I can't remember who it was.
I am looking for lover.
Yeah, we keep saying we're going to do these things, but...
What was his stupid name? Corner.
Still one of the best characters that has been written by her.
We've done a very kind of big shift between last week's and this week's.
Well, I
Definitely.
think we're expanding the scope of what the Book Club podcast can feature. Like these books, this whole genre is definitely a bit outside the norm. It's definitely very weird for most people to read a whole load of stories that are only 140 characters. But that doesn't mean it has to be rubbish just to be weird. Again, I feel sorry for if the person who listens to if the person who wrote My Anti for Lover is listening to this, we're just railing on their book for the second week in a row.
I'm sure it's past their bedtime, given.
Not enough insults for one podcast. You know, we've just.
Yeah.
Why do you live under my bed? She whispered. I'll tell you, whispered the monster, if you explain why you keep sleeping on my roof.
That's very zen. That's about perspectives and stuff, man. It's about
it's quite profound.
Yeah, I like that.
What do you identify as in that story? Do you identify as the person sleeping or the monster?
Ooh.
I mean, I always identify as the person sleeping, I'll be honest.
That's fair.
So, Liz, on an emotional, spiritual level, what do you think the monster under your bed is?
Oh, I used to have dreams about the monster that used to come into my room at night. And I think it was like purple. Pretty sure it was like tall and purple and furry.
Sounds quite cuddly.
Probably was. But did anyone else just, like, if you had your head under your covers and laid perfectly still, you thought the monster wouldn't see you and it was okay? Was that just me?
I don't think I thought that there was a monster under my bed.
Oh.
Personally.
I also had a great dream. I used to have recurrent dreams about this giant ogre with terrible teeth. Like, really wonky teeth that grew, instead of, like, black, it grew gems in its teeth. And it used to, like, pull out all these gems and make, like, furniture for me. It was a recurrent dream I had growing up.
Wow.
I think Liz's homework maybe should be try and turn some of her creepy dreams into 140-word character.
Could be, yeah.
Story.
Editing would be needed there as well. Paul used to keep when we first got married, Paul used to keep a dream journal. He used to get me to record them the following morning. There
were some good ones. There were definitely some good ones.
It was the one where the entire floor was made out of zombie gophers. And they were like biting at my armpits, so I had to like grab these zombie gophers and like smash them on the floor. And I do remember that one. It's like just gophers as far as you could see.
And I remember that dream was introduced as, so this one isn't very good, you probably shouldn't bother recording this. And then like 10 minutes into it, the zombie gophers arrived. Yeah. I've got a couple more.
Something about the comprehensive dictionary or something.
Oh, where each worm was a comprehensive dictionary or something. That's all I remember. There was another one that was like that, yeah.
Oh, that's very detailed.
It was. Couple more of these little stories.
Yeah.
I've got one that's again quite melancholy, quite speaks to the human condition. So it goes. I suppose this is goodbye. Maybe, but we'll always have Rome. We never went to Rome. I know. Regrets last longer than memories.
I really liked that one.
Yeah.
Another entry on a similar kind of melancholy theme. Yeah. We saw your distress fires. Get in, the alien said. They're fireworks? To celebrate? Oh, we've been watching you and we just assumed.
There's a lot about aliens like intervening in humanity. I can't find it now, but there was one about. No, let me see if I can find it. Liz, have you got one? Whilst I'm
There's See, faster is better, said Hare after easily winning the race. Maybe rematch, said Tortoise. You're on. When? In 50 years.
Very good.
Got one here. Death to humans, said Squealer. 4 legs good, 2 legs bad, said the sheep. 6 legs great, said Paul the ant. Nice try, Paul.
Poor Paul.
Oh, Paul. Yeah. We've got 2 people listening at the moment. So obviously one's my mum. If the other person is the writer of My Antifa Lover, we're sorry.
We are, but I
One of
think
them is the writer.
If
Yes.
one of them is the writer.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I
my
really
heart
think
go with that.
if they are listening, they owe us the apology, not the other way around.
It's John. It's my brother. So unless John has a secret life as a fictional author, we're probably safe.
Bad romance.
Good one. I've got a good one.
Okay.
A muffled bump. Something had moved in her attic. She felt a jolt of fear. You'd have sworn everybody she'd hidden up there was dead.
I would say, like this one. So this one's like fairy tale based, which I think quite a few of them are, which I think works quite well for the genre of microfiction because it's very much based on like a common understanding of how stories work that has to be in place before you can really appreciate it.
Yeah.
This one is Hansel held the oven shut until the shouting stopped. The candy cottage fell quiet. We'll say she was a witch, Gretel said, her mouth.
Wow.
Dark.
That's so good because I wonder how you write these. You must have come up with the idea and then have to like boil it down until it's just 140 letters. Must be quite tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never used Twitter at all, but I imagine you have the same kind of thing there. If you've got this angry point you're trying to make, but you've got to get it down to a sentence, pretty much. There must be something to that.
The whole bit about fairy tales in this bit.
Oh, yeah.
It's really good.
I've got zombies splintered the door as she put the gun to her head. There's still hope, I lied. Not for you, she said. I only have one bullet.
I'm trying to find any positive ones now because they're not all horribly morbid. I mean, a lot of them are. And obviously the ones that appeal to us are pretty bleak because,
Yeah, with, dark cynicism with black hearts. This one's quite cheery, though. I'll grind your bones to make my bread, shouted the giant. Ew, use flour, said Jack. Oh, I never learnt how to bake. I'll teach you. So wholesome.
That's nice. There's a very wholesome one towards the beginning about a dog. It just goes...
Oh, yeah, I love the pet ones, generally. There was some great ones with cats, too. Very, real.
Yeah. I've just found one that's dog one as well. You're my best friend, eh, boy? The man said. The dog wagged his tail. And I'm your best friend. The dog looked away. It got awkward.
That's nice. I have an actual wholesome dog one here, so it just says, every dog has his day. As he rolled on the grass, tail wagging, he knew this one was his. And so was yesterday. Tomorrow will be too. That's quite nice. But yeah, very definitely an interesting kind of art form. I was looking, so how we came onto this book was I was looking for short stories because we kind of decided we were going to review something short kind of at midday today, and we spent a while looking for very, very short books. And I found this whole genre called flash fiction, and the idea is that it's books of 500 words or less, and there's been whole kind of compilations of these things going on since the 90s, but it's been slowly getting less and less in the actual length of the stories until we finally arrived at entire stories the length of a tweet. Now, my question for you guys, which I've just thought up, do you think that this speaks to modern life, a story boiled down to 140 characters? Is this the way society is going?
Sadly, yeah.
In terms of attention spans as well.
Yeah. Instant gratification is not our friend. Yeah. But I see it with TV all the time, in that I, definitely used to watch an episode when it came out and then wait a week. And, then wait another week for the next episode. I don't know if I can do that anymore because the thing is that Netflix exists.
I mean, the Great Cosmic Slowdown nearly killed me finding out who the finalist was.
It's just painful having to wait for them to release the episode when you could just put it off and then sit down and watch all in one go. Have a binge.
With WandaVision, we managed all of WandaVision in an afternoon, and I don't think I could have hacked that like over
I lose
12 weeks
interest.
or whatever. It wasn't even that. It's just remember when like they did cliffhangers at the end of series? You have to wait like 6 months for the next episode. Find out if someone was dead.
And if you missed an episode, that was it. You were tough luck. You're not going to see that until the next run around. It does remind me though, what we're talking about how instant gratification and attention spans lowering. Have either of you read Fahrenheit 451?
I
No,
don't think I have actually.
Because it
was so flowery.
It was very flowery.
So flowery.
Yeah, very flowery. I didn't actually like it very much, but it's a classic dystopian book. Ray Bradbury, I think. And it's about how books have been made illegal and they get burned and all that kind of thing. But at the beginning, it says that books have all been condensed down to a single line. So, like, they would have like a Reader's Digest where it was every Shakespeare play reduced to a single sentence, so that people could just read one sentence and get the whole idea of the play from it. And
that would be a fun exercise.
That sounds like the sort of thing they would do in like writer school, actually, doesn't it?
That was when you went through that thing of trying to explain films in the most boring way possible.
Yes,
I remember that. Yeah.
You could do that with just like one-liners.
One line to describe a film as boring as possible. I think I made a Christmas quiz based on those or something.
You did, yeah.
Yeah. I think what I'm seeking for in life is something between, Charles Dickens, which was definitely too wordy, could have used an edit.
Yeah,
or like Les Mis. Have you ever tried to read those books? Goodness.
Didn't you spend like an entire chapter or so describing the sewer system in France?
It's not even a chapter. I think, except I never actually got through them, but my sister did, and I think the one that you don't know, she said there was an entire book about the history of a hill in it. Like there is a large volume of books that fall into the Les Mis thing, which all just follow the same plot. I think broadly.
Crusoe was a bit like that in that it could just do to about a third of the length.
Yeah. So I'm not saying I want that, but there is like a general kind of theory that people hate like adverbs and things these days because it makes sentences too long, and I really object to that. I want my language to be pretty, just not 7 sentences for anything to get to the point.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about, like, for example, like Lord of the Rings and how long it takes for anything to happen in that, and how much of it is just describing fields or songs that add nothing to the story or pointless tangents into history. I'm mostly saying this because I know my brother's listening, and I love to wind him up by saying how much I hate Lord of the Rings. But when you consider like books like that, epic fantasies where there's so much history and none of it's necessary for the story, and then you compare it to something like this where you get a kind of an actual story.
Yeah.
John's just said you're about to lose a viewer, so right, this is
that would be a 50% drop in viewership.
That's maybe not such a good idea.
Please stay. We love Lord of the Rings. I actually have not read it, but I intend to.
As long as you don't get me going on the flipping Hobbit films, I have strong opinions on the Hobbit.
There's a lot of film for quite a short book.
Yes, that's.
And I can tell Paul deciding whether or not he's going to try and bait me on this.
What did you think of the noses that the dwarves had, Liz?
Why do like all but 2 of them have giant prosthetic dwarf noses? Which is clearly like what dwarves look like, because otherwise they're just short blokes, okay? The only thing that makes a dwarf is the beard and the huge prosthetic nose. So why do you have all of them with huge prosthetic noses apart from 2? And the 2 that don't have prosthetic noses are the ones you're supposed to think are hot. And they don't look like dwarves, they just look like short blokes.
And they have a love triangle with an elf that's completely not in the book, and it's just the worst thing.
I think this is coming back to me now. I remember what we're talking about. But.
Yeah.
Like a few things you can get me going on, like universal credit, higher purchases, like...
The important things.
Yeah, the important things in life.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I've got another good one.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing that I could imagine Paul writing. What's wrong? You wouldn't understand. Try me. Fine, she said, and unfurled 6 wings. His face melted. She sang the end of time.
Yeah, that's fair. There's a few that are quite sort of Cthulhu-esque. I didn't save any of the others, but there's a couple where like the punchline is them summoning some eldritch horror from beneath the ocean or something. There's a couple like that, which I always appreciate a good bit of H.P. Lovecraft thrown in there.
It's amazing. I've got the best one. I've got the best one I've read. Dad, why do Santa's deer have bells? Remember how we put the bell on the cat because he kept eating birds? Yeah? That. But kids.
Oof.
That is so dark, and would have been a much better end to Sausagey Santa.
That's true.
Could be.
I've got another Santa.
Ooh, you go with your Santa one, and I've got like another profound one.
Okay, this is not very profound. Well, it's again more on the sad side. So, Santa sorted envelopes. Wish list, wish list, wish list. He sighed. No thank you notes, Mrs. Claus said. Not yet. Maybe tomorrow.
Or Santa.
I know.
This one is good. So, hi, I'd like to deposit 50 compliments. Sorry, your memory bank account is full. Full of what? Insults. How many? 2. Why is that so real?
Yeah, there's a
That
lot in
speaks
that.
deep.
There's a lot in that. Yeah.
It's incredible.
Did you say we
this
think
is
this is a
First one that we would strongly recommend that people buy.
I would pay for my own copy of this rather than a shared.
I was considering buying it for someone actually for their birthday because I know someone that really like this.
I think it's a really good gift, actually.
It is slightly illustrated, isn't it? There's a few images that go with them. It's mostly just text, but there is a little bit of picture, so it might make a nice actual book as well. Maybe sort of like, you get those books that like kind of like toilet reading, where it's like not very deep. You just sort of pick it up while you're on the bog. Toilet books. There's a few at your parents' house, Liz. One of them's literally called like the
book to read while you're on the toilet. Yeah. We have quite a few of those.
Yeah.
They're good for long sitting sessions.
Yeah. Although I guess good for reading on the toilet isn't the compliment that they're going to put on the front of this, is it?
I mean, on one of them, it clearly is.
No.
Oh, I like this one. Shoot him. I'm the real Sam, Sam said. No, I'm Sam. Shoot him, said the other Sam. Hi, I'm Tony, said Tony. Tony, not now, said Sam.
Anyone can fly. You only need a bit of fairy dust and a happy thought. A happy thought? That's right. Oh, well, I can just walk.
Man.
This is just a really good book.
And it is interesting that this is kind of the first book that I think we all would wholeheartedly, without reservation, recommend.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of the time, the complaint we have about the books is that they're boring.
Yeah.
And these are anything but boring.
Yeah, really not boring.
Like, even the ones that aren't quite as good, that don't make you laugh or stick with you, they're over in 140 characters, so, like, what's the worst that could happen?
It is fantastic.
Yeah. Anyone got any more before we wrap up? I mean, we could just keep reading it and read them out as we find them, because that...
I think...
There's, like, piracy issues if we just read the entire book.
Well, yeah.
This one brings us back to our normal theme, I think.
Okay.
So it might be a good way to end. What if everyone who ever died is a ghost? Sounds crowded. Or just intimate. Is this about your erotic ghost fiction again?
And we're back in familiar territory.
Oh, circle!
So next week, we've postponed it a week, but next week we are hoping to review
Oh, you have it there?
The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil by Stephen Collins.
Yeah, so this was the plan to review this week, despite what I said at the beginning. But the logistics of getting an actual book to 4 people who live in the same city over 2 weeks was beyond us on this particular occasion. So we will review that. I've already read it and I really loved it. I thought it was really, really good. So
I'm halfway through at the moment.
So we'll see what you all think, and yeah, we can have a good discussion about that one as well. We've had quite a
I think the whole reason it's not the logistics of getting it to 4 people in 2 weeks is entirely my fault, in that I got really anxious about not wanting to read it, and it's really good.
Didn't want to say anything, but
Yeah.
you know.
No, it's my fault.
Oh, good. I wouldn't have discovered the wonder of microfiction if it wasn't for this. So it all works out in the end.
That's true. So I had a thing I was going to say to wrap up, but I already can't remember. No, yeah. So we are going to for next time we should come up with our own microfiction stories to.
And
wow
so should you, our trusty viewer.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. So the family can rally around this and come up with their own microfiction. So 140 characters or less. Show us what you've got. Tell us next time, or send them to our email address, whatthebookclubpodcast@gmail.com. Or, given that you're all my family, share it in the family WhatsApp, and I'll read it next time.
Like, it makes me tired even thinking about it, so I promise nothing in my ability to create something. But
140 characters, mate. Come on.
You could try for 140 characters.
Yeah, just question marks.
Yeah.
140 question marks.
Very deep. We've had quite a highbrow episode this week, I would say. Like, we've discussed other books, we discussed what is the nature of a story, we've talked about Tolkien, Ray Bradbury. I think that the person that drags us down...
Helen Ganny has been pulling us down.
Exactly.
It's nothing to do with the content of the literature involved. If Helen Ganny hadn't have been there for the Kissing the Coronavirus and Pounded by the Pound episode, it would have been perfectly highbrow, I'm sure.
Absolutely. All right. Any concluding thoughts from anyone before we wrap this up?
I am really pleased that we found this like halfway through this afternoon.
Likewise. Yeah.
It's a good book.
Expect it as a gift, people who I know, for your next birthday.
Just the amount of times I've laughed at it. It is such a good book.
Yeah. All right, well, let's call it a day there. Thank you, everyone who tuned in to listen. And next episode, 2 weeks from now, we will, in fact, assuming we get the logistics of it sorted, review The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil, or some other hastily pulled out of nowhere book like this one. But either way, be sure to catch us there.
We could always do The Haunted Vagina next time if needs be. We have all read that now.
I think we've threatened... I haven't read it either. I think we've threatened to do The Haunted Vagina at the end of every episode for like 2 or 3 weeks now.
And we keep people coming back.
I don't think it was that, compared to some of the crap we've read, I don't think it was that bad.
No. Well.
High praise.
At least it's thought through. That's the main thing.
Now we're getting into the review of it, but we've got to the bottle of wine. I'm glad that was recorded.
All right, thank you very much for listening, guys, and we'll on that note, we'll see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.